Welcome to 10 Minutes a Day, a daily reading of the Catholic Church's social encyclicals. Today we continue with Quadragesimo Anno, written by Pope Pius XI in 1931.
These teachings were issued indeed most opportunely, for at that time in many nations those at the helm of state, plainly imbued with liberalism, were showing little favor to workers' associations of this type. Nay, rather they openly opposed them, and while going out of their way to recognize similar organizations of other classes and show favor to them, they were with criminal injustice denying the natural right to form associations to those who needed it most to defend themselves from ill treatment at the hands of the powerful. There were even some Catholics who looked askance at the efforts of workers to form associations of this type, as if they smacked of a socialist or revolutionary spirit. The rules, therefore, which Leo XIII issued in virtue of his authority, deserve the greatest praise in that they have been able to break down this hostility and dispel these suspicions. But they have even a higher claim to distinction in that they encourage Christian workers to found mutual associations according to their various occupations, taught them how to do so, and resolutely confirmed in the path of duty a goodly number of those whom social organizations strongly attracted by claiming to be the sole defenders and champions of the lowly and oppressed. With respect to the founding of these societies, the encyclical on the condition of workers most fittingly declared that workers' associations ought to be so constituted and so governed as to furnish the most suitable and convenient means to attain the object proposed, which consists in this, that the individual members of the association secure, so far as is possible, an increase in the goods of body, of soul, and of property. Yet it is clear that the moral and religious perfection ought to be regarded as their principal goal, and that their social organization, as such, above all ought to be directed completely by this goal. For, when the regulations of associations are founded upon religion, the way is easy toward establishing the mutual relations of the members, so that peaceful living together and prosperity will result. To the founding of these associations, the clergy and many of the laity devoted themselves everywhere to truly passionate zeal, eager to bring Leo's program to full realization. Thus, associations of this kind have molded truly Christian workers, who, in combining harmoniously the diligent practice of their occupation with the salutatory precepts of religion, protect effectively and resolutely their own temporal interests and rights, keeping a due respect for justice and a genuine desire to work together with other classes of society for the Christian renewal of all social life. These counsels and instructions of Leo XIII were put into effect differently in different places according to varied local conditions. In some places, one and the same association undertook to attain all the ends laid down by the pontiff. In others, because circumstances suggested or required it, a division of work developed, and separate associations were formed. Of these, some devoted themselves to the defense of rights and legitimate interests of their members in the labor market. Others took over the work of providing mutual economic aid. Finally, still others gave all their attention to the fulfillment of religious and moral duties and other obligations of like nature. This second method has been especially adopted where either the laws of a country, or certain special economic institutions, or that deplorable dissension of minds and hearts so widespread in contemporary society and an urgent necessity of combating with united purpose and strength the massed ranks of revolutionists have prevented Catholics from founding purely Catholic labor unions. Under these conditions, Catholics seem almost forced to join secular labor unions. These unions, however, should always profess justice and equity and give Catholic members full freedom to care for their own conscience and obey the laws of the Church. It is clearly the office of bishops, when they know that these associations are an account of circumstances necessary and are not dangerous to religion, to approve of Catholic workers joining them, keeping before their eyes, however, the principles and precautions laid down by our predecessor, Pius X, of holy memory. Among these precautions, the first in chief is this. Side by side with these unions, there should always be associations zealously engaged in viewing and forming their members in the teaching of religion and morality, so that they in turn may be able to permeate the unions with that good spirit which should direct them in all their activity. As a result, the religious associations will bear good fruit even beyond the circle of their own membership. To the encyclical of Leo, therefore, must be given this credit, that these associations of workers have so flourished everywhere that while, alas, still surpassed in numbers by socialist and communist organizations, they already embrace a vast multitude of workers and are able, within the confines of each nation, as well as in wider assemblies, to maintain vigorously the rights and the legitimate demands of Catholic workers and insist also on the salutary Christian principles of society. Leo's learned treatment and vigorous defense of the natural rights reform associations began, furthermore, to find ready application to other associations also, and not alone to those of workers. Hence, no small part of the credit must, it seems, be given to this same encyclical of Leo, for the fact that among farmers and others of the middle class, most useful associations of this kind are seen flourishing to a notable degree and increasing day by day, as well as other institutions of a similar nature in which spiritual development and economic benefit are happily combined. But if this cannot be said of organizations which our same predecessor intensely desired established among employers and managers of industry, we certainly regret that they are so few. The condition is not wholly due to the will of men, but to far graver difficulties that hinder associations of this kind, which we know well and esteem at their full value. There is, however, strong hope that these obstacles also will be removed soon. Even now we greet with deepest joy of our soul certain by no means insignificant attempts in this direction, the rich fruits of which promise a still richer harvest in the future. All these benefits of Leo's encyclical, venerable brethren and beloved children, which we have outlined rather than fully described, are so numerous and of such import as to show plainly that this immortal document does not exhibit a merely fanciful, even if beautiful ideal of human society. Rather did our predecessor draw from the gospel, and therefore from an ever-living and life-giving fountain, teachings capable of greatly mitigating, if not immediately terminating, that deadly internal struggle which is rending the family of mankind. The rich fruits which the Church of God and the whole human race have, by God's favor, reaped therefrom unto salvation prove that some of this good seed, so lavishly sown 40 years ago, fell on good ground. On the basis of that long period of experience, it cannot be rash to say that Leo's encyclical has proved itself the Magna Carta upon which all Christian activity in the social field ought to be based, as on a foundation. And those who would seem to hold in little esteem this papal encyclical and its commemoration either blaspheme what they do not know, or understand nothing of which they are only superficially acquainted with, or if they do not understand, convict themselves formally, if they do understand, convict themselves formally of injustice and ingratitude. Yet since in the course of these same years certain doubts have arisen concerning either the correct meaning of some parts of Leo's encyclical, or conclusions to be deduced therefrom, which doubts in turn have even among Catholics given rise to controversies that are not always peaceful, and since, furthermore, new needs and changed conditions of our age have made necessary a more precise application of Leo's teaching, or of even certain additions thereto, we most gladly seize this fitting occasion, in accord with our apostolic office, through which we are debtors to all, to answer, so far as in us lies, these doubts and these demands of the present day. Yet before proceeding to explain these matters, that principle which Leo XIII so clearly established must be laid down at the outset here, namely, that there resides in us the right and duty to pronounce with supreme authority upon social and economic matters. Certainly the Church was not given the commission to guide men to an only fleeting and perishable happiness, but that too which is eternal. Indeed, the Church holds that it is unlawful for her to mix without cause in these temporal concerns. However, she can in no wise renounce the duty God entrusted to her to interpose her authority, not, of course, in matters of technique, for which she is neither suitably equipped nor endowed by office, but in all things that are connected with the moral law. For as to these, the deposit of truth that God committed to us and the grave duty of disseminating and interpreting the whole moral law and of urging it in season and out of season bring under and subject to our supreme jurisdiction not only social order, but economic activities themselves.